The concept of gene flow, as the name implies, refers to genes flowing from one population of the same species to another through the processes of either immigration, so arrival to a new population, changing that population's allelic frequency, and exiting from another location through emigration, so changing that population's allelic frequency by removing those alleles that that individual carries. Interesting enough, if you have two populations of the same species that have adapted to different climates and so on, then you will see a morphological difference to start with, behavioral and so on, but in general, there will be differences in between those two populations of the same species that have adapted to their location. And those adaptations happen because of other microevolutionary forces such as mutation. So in one population, a particular mutation can happen. That same mutation, it cannot happen in the other. It can happen by chance, of course, but it doesn't, the odds of happening in another population in the same time are rather small. Also, the differences in between those two populations are shaped due to their adaptations to their habitat through the process of natural selection. Or it could be just by chance through genetic drift, which literally means that that population was started with a group of individuals that had, by chance, one particular allele more common than the other one. So these three of genetic forces, or microevolutionary forces, mutation, natural selection, and genetic drift, usually separate those two populations farther apart, either by adapting better to one habitat versus the other, or by chances of one kind of mutation in one versus the other. Of course, natural selection would deal with those mutations in one way in one population, in another way in another population, according to their climate and ecosystem and environment and so on, or just by chance of what was that original population starting with. So all of those are separating those two populations. When gene flow happens, then a mutation that happened by chance in one population or a particular trait in that population, so let's say taller individuals and so on, it's brought in to this other population that doesn't have it. So by doing so, gene flow from one population to the other in both directions would allow for stabilizing allelic frequency in between, that's very important, in between the two populations. So a new study showed that human populations across the globe are stabilizing because of gene flow. So people are immigrating and emigrating and moving to where the opportunities are. And apparently in the next few centuries, humans around the globe would be way more similar to each other than they are today because of the process of gene flow through emigration and immigration. And these processes, this concept of gene flow, it's much easier to see in mobile organisms such as animals, but they definitely happen in plants, mainly because of animals seeking for either pollen or for their seeds. So through pollen dispersal and seed dispersal, please take a moment and click on these links of the videos and see some examples. There's a very nice picture here of blue jays carrying oaks seeds, a whole fruit but containing a seed, but in this way promoting gene flow between populations of oaks. Obviously floods or wind can carry either pollen or seeds in between plant populations as well. So they happen. Or even a coconut, for example, can float from the coast of Australia to all the way to the coast of South America, or in between in other tropical islands, and this way inducing gene flow and stabilizing the differences in between the populations at either end.